welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do testimony on my way back home from work. So, one thing that I had always enjoyed, even as a kid and everything else, is I love fantasy, witches and dragons, and just all of that stuff. Always loved it. I watched all of the Harry Potters and really enjoyed them and all of that. Never was much of a book reader until I think maybe, I want to say, I think it's when I moved down to Texas. So, got into the Kindle. Got me the Kindle Unlimited subscription and started reading fantasy romance novels. And I didn't think there was anything bad about them, you know. Didn't think that it was going to add to my already struggling with some sexual integrity that I struggled with and didn't know that might have been, that I might have also had a principality. But reading them books certainly didn't help. And I've read books like that for years after that. I mean, lived in Texas for like 8 years, and so I read all kinds of, I guess, word porn is what it turns out to be. I mean, if I offend anybody because they don't think romance novels are not word porn, I'm not meaning to offend. I should say these are my opinions, not facts. That's my little disclaimer. I have the sun right in my eyes. Without that showing. So, but the fact of the matter is, romance novels is word porn. Some of them are not as bad as others. And now they've even gotten better where they're, you know, you're supposed to warn your readers, have trigger warnings, you know, all kinds of stuff now. And then the other thing I was getting into was there were times I couldn't afford my Kindle Unlimited or afford any of the books that they had, and so I started going on the free, like, amateur author apps. I think you've heard of it. It's like Wattpad, Wattpad, Inkit. I found that, you know, and so I've started reading books there because they were for free. Yes, they were amateur authors, but I was still, you know, wanting to feed my flesh that stuff. So I got to a point where I was starting to get conviction over the kind of books I was reading. And because I was praying for God to please, you know, I was having really explicit dreams at night, and it was just crazy. I mean, I'm kind of putting my shame out there, but it's covered in the blood for right now. So, and every day, this was my addiction. You know, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I never did any kind of real hard drugs, and I don't do anything now. And what I do like is I like me a good fantasy movie and a good fantasy book, and I'd sit there and watch it all day long. Even now, if I'm not where I was Lord had delivered me from that desire. But anyway, I got to a point where I was starting to get conviction over the stuff I was reading in that book. So I started to look for books that didn't have so much smut in it. They have a genre of exotica, and so obviously I didn't read books like that. But they still, even some of the regular romance novels that were supposed to be like a slow burn and everything else, they were still, man, like some of them authors were lonely. Some of them authors were lonely, because some of it was pretty hardcore, like 50 Shades of Grey. I've even read them books. That was I read them. I've watched the movie. So I started seeking. I still books that were more adventure. The storyline was good, and I just wanted one with a good storyline and still had the magic and the werewolves and witches and all that kind of stuff. So I was finding them. There's not very many, but I was finding them. But I was just having a hard time. I just get to a part that got really rough, and so I just flipped through the chapters till I got past that scene, and then it would be, and they had really good storylines, but then it had a whole bunch of that in there, and I ended up quit reading the book because it got so bad. So I said to myself, I'm looking for cleaner books. I could probably write a cleaner book than they can. It didn't seem like it was so bad. Especially I was reading a lot of the ones from like Wattpad and Iniquity and stuff. So I was like, well, maybe I could win a contest. Who knows? Maybe it's just for fun. So I wrote quite a few books, but I still struggled with my sexual integrity. Or I think it's not integrity, it's iniquity. Yeah, anyway. My brain was still dirty. So when I wrote all these books, I still had that stuff in there. And I was like, man, now I see why these people struggled so much. And it took up until, I think I had a video on here, a posting when I was delivered from my principality. And I really think this is why I struggled so much to kick that habit of the romance novels. So after my good friend freed me from my principality, and then I didn't touch the book. I was so convicted, and I was like, man, I'm just not going to read any books anymore, and I'm just, and I was really disappointed because that was the one thing I enjoyed for entertainment was, the magic and stuff. So I was disappointed. I prayed about it, and everything else. And so it took me a while, and I was so disappointed because I worked so hard on those books. I had quite a few of them out. Well, finally, I started thinking, I'm going to just try to make the story as clean as possible. I'm clean inside, in my head, I'm cleaner. Let me try it again. And so I did a thing, and I actually published a book. Now, it's still fantasy and magic and vampires and stuff, but it is actually really clean. I think I did a good job. And of course, I think I had a lot of help from the Holy Spirit keeping it clean. Plus, I don't think I have that principality anymore. But anyway, so I took one of my stories. I picked one. I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to pick one and focus. And I'm going to clean it all up, get all the smut and any kind of thing out of there. And I felt like the Holy Spirit was like, you know what? If you want to be an author, they do have Christian authors out there who do fantasy. He says, put Christian concepts in there. Make it a storyline. Focus on the adventures, not so much the relationship part of it. And you know, I thought about it. I think I've read a couple books that it kept pretty clean and there was really no romance in it, but there was a love interest and it was done really well. And that book is called Aragon. I don't know if anybody's heard of that book, but it's a dragon. It's a dragon one. And the storyline is really good, and they made a movie out of it. Movie, of course, is not as good as the book, but recommend it if anyone readers out there are struggling with the same things I am, or was. So, I wrote a book, and it's not really for Christians, because it does have werewolves and vampires in it, and magic. But I load it with a bunch of Christian concepts. The main character, I don't know what it's called. It's the point of view of there's two main characters. And it's the couple in this sort of I don't even know if it's a romance novel. I think it's just considered adventure. I don't even know. But she is from a priesthood. Her whole pack is a priesthood. It's werewolves, and he is like from the world, but he's a prince. So he's got worldly values and everything else, and has abandoned his God, and you know, so and. I don't know. And so, still have a lot of the whole, you know, what is it called? Like soulmate thing going on. But, like, my characters in werewolves are not like the whole horror movie werewolves. They're like, essentially, they're like people, magical people who can turn into a wolf. They're not, and they don't even want to bother anybody else. They want to be just left alone out in the middle of the woods somewhere doing their thing. And, well, anyway, so she basically brings him back to their God. And, but they have to go through all these things. And so I think it was fun, and I think it's clean, but that was my thing. I wrote a book, and I'm struggling with it because as a Christian and where I'm at with my relationship with God, I'm at the place where I don't observe Halloween. I don't really want to do anything with darkness as far as witches and werewolves and vampires and all of that, and yet I wrote a book that has at least two of them. The vampires are the bad guys in my book. So I don't know, like, I really struggle with it, and the only thing I can say is my book is really not for Christians. I sprinkle a whole lot of biblical concepts, and I guess what I'm hoping is like bait. You know, we're fishermen of men, and you got to use the bait for the fish that the fish is going to want to bite, and they're not going to be looking up Christian fantasy novels. They're going to just come across it. So I guess that's my attempt at a book, and that it would be interesting and fun, and maybe these people might want to, it might just get the juices flowing in their brain to start thinking about religion, not even at that, to think about Jesus, I suppose, not religion. That's not even good. Because my main character girl, she loves her God, and she is very devout, and she just, the way she talks about her God just makes other people in the book like want that kind of faith. Her faith is just, and that's what I was just, I don't know if I did it right. I'm hoping that I did, but you know, that's where I'm at with that book. And it's a 3-book series, and the first book is out, and I'm working on the second one, and I don't know. The only thing I can say is, you know, I've let a couple other people read it, and they were Christians, but they ain't at a place where I am, where they think, you know, witches and all that are to be worried about. So, they thought it was great, and they saw the biblical concepts, and they thought they understood it. They were able to follow it, and so I'm hoping I did a good job. They said that they could definitely see it. And then in the back, I did one of a section of trying to, like, an altar call, and be like, hey, you know, if you like this story, you really like this story, in the real love story in the Bible, and it and then I tell them, you know, hey, you should give your life to Christ, so that, you know, He can take care of you to the fullest. So it's kind of like my little attempt, my little bait out there, trying to fish me up some people who are in a place like me. You know, they might be convicted of, you know, loving the fantasy books, but not wanting all the trash that's in it. You might be looking for a cleaner book, and that was my goal, is to write a cleaner book that not be a stumbling block, but that just maybe they'll give Jesus a chance. If they do, you know, get it, read the whole book or whatever. So that's my testimony on that. If you're interested in my book, you can find it on Amazon, and you can find it. It's called The Awakening, Round 1, and my pen name is Buntbirdtn, just like this thing here, Buntbirdtn, and the channel. So look it up on Amazon, and you should be able to find it if you're interested in my book. And you can even leave me a comment and say, if you do get it, and say, did you see the biblical concepts? Is it a stumbling block, or do you find it, I mean, I don't know. Let me know. But I hope that I might attach the picture of the cover. But I hope you all have a blessed day, and may God bless you, and thank you for watching this video all the way through. Have a great day.